Hello Inkies and welcome to a Create With Me. This video is just a few little bits and bobs of creating for you guys to have a look at. Also, I take you through the process, some of the process of this month's calendar, which you have already seen. And I did film portions of me creating that calendar, and there was a call to sort of have a look at how it happened, especially the digital side. But I thought I would start with a little bit of random background collage. A lot of the time when I am trying to tidy up my desk and things, I have a lot of odds and ends just sort of sitting around, and I'll do like a desk collage is what I call it. I grab a stack of papers that I've obviously made it to my desk somehow, some way. I normally have, because I've pulled something out of my collage drawers and just sort of dump it. So I tend to go through these piles quite regularly actually, and decided that I wanted to use some of it to make a collage because there's a few pages in my journal that have like nothing on it, or like there was pages where I've just got a bit of I'm not even sure what's on the page, but there's a couple of random no man's land pages in my journal that I wanted to tackle. So I thought, what better way to tackle that with a little bit of collage, because it's one of my favorite mediums. It's really relaxing and it's just something I really enjoy doing. And you guys always seem to want to see me put collage together and how I take the collage into the next phase. So you'll see me just sorting through papers. I know it's not too amazing and not too groundbreaking watching me do this, but I thought I'd show you the process of me sort of picking nondescript things. I don't pick, when I'm doing a background collage like you're going to see me do here, I don't pick things with huge focal points. I don't pick things with really contrasting colors. I try and pick up the scraps of my stuff that aren't super in your face. So I pick the things that are really obscure, like the plain pink tissue paper. There is a yellow piece of paper with some of my pen tests when I was trying to get one of my pens to work. I kept that, it's random, and I happened to make it onto my collage sheet. I've got bits of paper with watercolor swatches on it. I've got bits of ripped up grid paper, so no huge amount of in your face. Like I wouldn't try and grab like stacks of dark pattern work because it just would, if I'm going to create something over it, that dark pattern work would try and dominate. Unless I was knowing exactly, had some sort of preconceived notion about what I was creating in that page, I then would place items down in the space where I think, okay, yeah, a pattern would work here because I'm gonna have her or the creature or the Nook dweller's clothing, and I like to include patterned clothing on my Nooks, and so I know exactly where I want certain things. So if you're going to do this sort of thing, I try and, as you can see here, they're not very in-your-face pieces of paper. They're just scraps, but like not hardcore scraps. There'll be a couple of bits and pieces, like this one I'm putting down here is quite bright and crazy, and it's I have to cover some of that up when I actually go to create the item. And I'm using matte medium and a Dina Wakley brush because they're very hard wearing, and I'm just sort of not thinking about it and just grabbing bits and pieces and just piecing them all together. So neutral-ish colors, unless I have like a few little crazy bits and pieces. I think I put down that scribble thing, yeah. And in the actual process of me working over the top of it, that scribble thing was a pain in the butt. So good job, Courtney, for taking your own advice and doing nondescript. I think I was like, oh, I'll have a dress, but part of the face was in that, so then I have to use ulterior mediums when I go to creating over the top of it to sort of cover some of those harsh black lines, especially if it's right in a focal point or a place where I want to put a facial feature.
Take me back to when we were kids and didn't care if we were acting stupid, cause all we had was us. If I close my eyes and think about us, I can see the person I know I should be. Cause honestly, I don't have no time to waste. I'm trying to come back to you, because now I see we were meant to be. Where are you now? his eyes. If I close my eyes and think about us, I can see the person I know I should be. 'Cause honestly, I don't have no time to waste. I'm trying to come back to you, because now I see we were meant to be.
So this kind of shows you how much of a hoarder I really am. The piece that I'm just putting on there now is actually the sky from a photo from the Sydney Pen Show. If you remember, I cut out Sam, Sian and me from the picture, and I hoarded that piece of sky thinking, oh yeah, I could use that, and I did. It's in my journal now. It becomes a piece of ephemera in my journal. I loved the sunlight coming from the top, so I kept it. So, you know, hoarder's life, hashtag hoarder for life. Totally okay to be a hoarder, especially if you can use it in your journal later on.
You want to leave this place where we grew up, this old town, just put it all behind. Remember you and I would always find somewhere to hide when we were kids, so we could see and hear the water run. The river's gonna cry when you're gone.
So I've had a few questions about how I get it all done, especially when I have a major busy day, Raven being a drama queen diva. And I wanted to say that I juggle things and a lot of things go by the wayside, like my studio. I am constantly trying to keep on top of my studio, but it makes it a bit crazy when I have multiple things going on. So I wanted to talk to you about how I would juggle a work day that was a little bit crazy. And my planner is definitely one of the things that I go to every single day, especially on a day like this. I have a lot of commitments at the moment when it comes to Patreon. I've got collage sheets coming up really soon. I hadn't started the calendar at this stage, and I just wanted to try and get as much done as possible, knowing I had Lily's birthday coming up, my husband's birthday coming up, Father's Day coming up, all my family coming over, and I was running out of time fast to get all this stuff done. So I would sit at my table and I would get my planner out and I would start making a list from priority, like the top priority, need to get done now, and then I started setting up stations. Now this meant, because I had several things that needed to happen and several things that I needed to work on, I started setting up stations within my dining room so that I could move from thing to thing to thing, because I had multiple things that I needed to work on. So I set up a station for the calendar. I knew that I had to get the calendar done. I had an idea about what I wanted to work on and whether it was going to be something that would take up a lot of time. It did. So I set up all my watercolors, my paintbrush, my water, the actual piece of paper that I wanted to use, everything that I needed for the calendar I put at a certain section. And I then went from that. I knew I needed to do blog posts for this weekend, so I set up a station where my blog stuff would go, meaning my journal. I grabbed all the things that I needed to sort of set up a blog post look, and I have a certain area in my dining room where there's a lot of light, the greenery and all that sort of stuff is there. And I know that I wanted to photograph my mini journal for a blog post. I have pages that haven't been seen by the lower tiers, so that's half the thing that I needed to get down. I also grab props because a lot of these blog posts are staged, and so I grab all the things that I want to include or may want to include, and I have that in a section and make sure that that's ready to go, so that when I need a break from working on my calendar, because I knew that the items, the things that I wanted to do on the calendar would require me to stop and let things dry naturally, which meant I would move to a different station and work on something else. Another station was the copy marker station, and that was where I had the calendar, and also I have my iPad Pro and Apple Pencil there for when I want to line some of the black and white color in images, and that's there. And then I have a station for YouTube because I have a couple of YouTube things that I need to get done, like reviewing the things from Etsy, the Lacao thing, and also a book review for Jane's stuff. And basically this is me setting up some of the photographs that you'll probably see tomorrow in the blog post, and just sort of playing around with trying to get the certain shape, not the shapes, but the layout, and trying to get it all to fit in nicely, using the yellow cardboard as a backdrop because I couldn't get the right look, but I know that the yellow popped with all the other things, setting up my bits and pieces and stuff like that. And then I also take a couple of slightly different shots for Instagram, because I know that Instagram is part of my job as well. Promotion and showing my journal pages helps bring in new inkies to the Patreon tribe, so I have to try and balance and juggle all those aspects. And that was basically one day of work, jumping from thing to thing to thing to thing, and trying to just get ready and take on September with a bang, because September at the end of it we're going to my mum's, so it means that I have to double time my work. So now it's time to sort of take you through my calendar, and I didn't actually film the first part. What I had done was I laid down some water and then added a wash of all the greens and yellows in certain sections and let that dry naturally. I then come in with my blue colored pencil and I start adding leaves with the blue, because the blue would blend in nicely with all the greens and stuff. So I was like, I won't do pink, I will do blue. And then I start sketching out leaves. And like I said, I don't show you all of this process because it would just take way too long, but I'm trying to add leaves in all different places. I am taking my time. Now this is sped up 2 times fast, just so you know, because I was very methodical in doing this and in the painting stage, but I didn't want to speed it up so much so that you couldn't see what I was doing. And I've had a couple of people say, can you slow things down a bit? So this is only sped up twice as fast, and I'm just adding leaves and branches and building that up around where I had envisioned the moon, which now you know is a creature, to be, and just adding different shapes and different looks, different sizes, and getting a really dynamic drawing. And it's just really monotonous but very relaxing work.
I'm gonna let the sun shine in today. I'm trying to make this darkness go away. I'll paint with colors and I'll sing until my lungs give out. I'm gonna let the sun shine in today. And I will leave my windows open so that I can hear the sound of people talking and the wind blowing in the trees. Oh, I will open up my eyes so I can see the light. Oh, and I'll try to spread my wings so I can fly. Oh, and the darkness starts to fade.
So this part is when I start using my smaller paintbrush to color in or paint around the leaves. So darkening up the space around the leaves, so the negative space, not the actual drawings, and layering in the same colors that I use for the wash, but with a little less water, so it's not as faint. And then once that dries, I let that dry manually. I didn't heat set anything, which is why it took me so long to do this. Once that dried naturally, I drew some more leaves and then repeated the process over and over again. And I think I did the process of layering the leaves, layering around the leaves, drawing more leaves, laying around the leaves, I think 5 or 6 times throughout the day. And as you can see, it means that your leaves will all be varying in shades. It'll create more depth, and you'll get a really, really beautiful, vibrant color palette that you wouldn't get if you just did one layer. So it meant that all the leaves were all varying in shades of the same color, some with deeper tones, some with richer tones. The original leaves, some were really pale, which I did go in and fix because I thought some of them were a bit too pale and needed a bit more sort of life to them. But the whole process means that you're glazing all these areas over and over again at different strengths with the same colors. So I used the same color palette, the same shades over and over again, and just repeated the process. It was really, really relaxing. I highly recommend having a play with this.
I've never been known for my cautious side. You should know that I'm well aware. I don't want anything left undone.
As you can see, there's a lot more leaves now, and you're adding the leaves at every single stage. And I'm also, I think maybe on the 3rd or 4th layer of glazing, and you can see how the blues are a lot darker, the greens are a lot deeper, and it's just a really fun way to add and create so many different things. I think if I was to do this again, I would do it on a smaller scale so it wouldn't take me as long, but I knew that I wanted a large piece for the top part of the calendar. And you can tell I had a lot of fun mixing a lot of the greens and blues to get a lot of the same shades, a lemon yellow for those yellowy greeny bits. But it is a really fun and simple and effective way to play with your watercolors.
What shall we call us? Hobos per se. We'll find that out on the way. So let us just do, my love, and not stop thinking of this over. Let us just do, my love, and see where this road will take us now. I've never been known for my cautious side. I know the wind that I
As you can see, it is now nighttime and I'm adding some colored pencil just to give a few little bits and pieces that I couldn't really trust myself to get with watercolor. And I always use colored pencils and just darkening some of those leaves that have like overlays and shadows and things. So if there's a leaf that was over it, I gave it a little bit of a shadow. And this was where I started lining it with my blue Copic multi-liner. And this is where my brain was like, maybe I should try and do some of this digitally, because I feel like I would be faster for one, and I was starting to get really worried that I'd spent all this time painting this background for me to ruin it with traditional means. Like my white pen was not doing its best. I started doing white pen, as you can see in that image there, but I knew my white pen was not going to perform at the level that I wanted it to perform. And I was just really, really anxious. And I had that thing, that pit in my stomach going, oh my goodness, I'm going to ruin this. And I've spent literally all day layering this piece up. What am I going to do? And I think I sat there talking to hubby. And he goes, well, why don't you scan it and save it just in case? And then I said, I think I'm going to scan it and put it into Procreate and test how I can alter it in Procreate. And that's exactly what I ended up doing, and I'm so very, very glad. It also meant that I could deepen some of the colors digitally that got lost in the scanning process, and I could add some of the layers and things that I wanted digitally, and then test out things that I couldn't test without it. So let's get into Procreate. You can see this is how it looks, and I am literally lining it. I picked a blue color. I was color matching from the actual piece. Now I tried to slow this down as slow as it would let me, but I also added texture such as spray paint in the really light blue to add some sort of darkness and like a night theme. So the spray paint, and there was a few other brushes that I used, and also using obviously the white lines. I knew that I could trust the white gel. This is the gel pen brush in Procreate. I also softened the opacity in the blue lines for the leaves, so they're not at full strength, they're at lower strength. The white's at full strength. The spray paint with the blues and things, all that texturizing was also done at about 40 to 30% opacity, so it wasn't in your face, it just gave highlights. There was splatter painting that went in there, so I've got a lot of the texture and stuff was definitely helped really bring this piece together. And just adding all those blue lines to the green leaves, and adding navy lines and highlights, and then it was just, I had so much fun doing this in Procreate, and it's probably the biggest thing that I've done in Procreate, and I am a convert. And obviously the paper-like thing that's on my iPad now makes drawing and lining so much easier. And obviously instead of a moon, I decided to go with the creature, but Procreate actually lost that part of the footage, so it goes from this to like half completed, and I have no idea why. But I also changed the facial features on the creature several times, but I'll have a chat to you about that in a second. Good morning, Inkies. I hope you are well. I am just checking in with you because I'm at the editing process of this video and realized there quite wasn't enough footage that I'm happy with to give you guys a video. I'm pretty hard on myself with how much stuff I give you. So I'm going to attempt to work on this page that you saw me collage at the start, and see what happens with it. I'll probably have a play, but I thought I'd check in because I had a few questions about the last video when I was working in here. Sorry, all my bits and bobs falling out of my front pocket. Now, I had a couple of questions about the paint that I used in this video, especially the pink, and so I thought I'd just touch on that and the colors, because I did say that they were paper artsy paints, but I didn't actually tell you which colors I used, so I thought I'd do that for you guys now, clear it up so I don't have to answer the same question over and over. And sometimes people like to know color names and stuff like that. And there were also questions about the orangey yellow, orangey gold. So in the paper artsy paints, I use two colors, and I use blush and pixie dust. And let's see if it'll focus. There we go. So blush and pixie dust are the two colors that I used. Mainly blush, which is, let me show you blush. So blush is in here and has more of a less pinky tone than pixie dust. And pixie dust is more in here where you can see less pink, more pink. I'm pretty sure that might be pixie dust as well. So it's got more of a pink undertone, whereas this has more of a yellow undertone. So yeah, those are the two colors that I used. Now with regards to the white highlights and things, when I was coloring in this guy, I actually just used gesso, and this is the Liquitex brand. I didn't have any white acrylic paint on me at the time, and I don't have any white gouache. White gouache is actually something that I need to get because I wanted to use it in my calendar piece. Went looking for it and couldn't find it, which is why I ended up doing the line work of your calendar digitally. Now this got released today, or yesterday, last night. So all of this line work was done digitally because one, I didn't have a gel pen that I knew would go the distance, and I felt like I would be sitting there for hours and hours and hours redrawing over my lines to get them as crisp as I wanted. And so putting it into Procreate was a huge thing for me because I didn't expect to enjoy the process because I'm still super new with Procreate. It may not look like it in the speed up, but there was a whole chunk of that video that didn't record. Like it looked like a whole heap of stuff just appeared, and I don't know why it didn't actually record that part, because I wanted you to see how this evolved, because I did a whole heap of different facial expressions, different styles, different looks, when I was like sitting there going, why can't it just be a simple little face? Because everything around him is so detailed that I didn't want to do a really in-depth face. It didn't suit the style, and in the end I obviously went with this, but for some reason Procreate didn't record all that. A whole heap of these large lines and the little secret hidden creatures that are in there aren't even recorded, and I don't know why. I was quite miffed, but I thought I'd put the footage in anyway because I had quite a lot of questions about how I did this. And even though you, let me go get the original painting, it's actually sitting in the scanner, so you'll see the difference. Okay, so this is what let me just move my screen down so I can look up and see what I'm talking about. This is the original at the moment, and you can see that it looks quite a bit, not hugely different, but you can see that there's a lot of work that's gone into this digitally to get it to where it actually is. But I still love the original. I'll probably sit and use a gel pen on the original and try and recreate this, or I won't. I don't know. I may go in and do all the line work in blue like I did digitally. I started doing it and I was like, this is going to take me forever, and I was worried because the painting itself took me a whole day to complete. With all the layering, I let it dry naturally. I didn't heat set it or anything. I didn't want to disturb it, so I dried the layer. I think I went back to this piece 5 or 6 times with the layering and building up of the leaves and all the textures and stuff. So it took a long time, and there was always that nickel in the back of mine, am I wasting my time? Is this going to be a flop and I'm going to be so stuffed for the calendar? This was actually going to be a full moon, and that was another thing that Procreate didn't show you, was I started trying to create a moon in Procreate because I was going to sit down and try and paint one. Oh, sorry. I was going to go sit down and paint versions of it to see if I could just superimpose a moon, because a moon was one of the things that you guys wanted when I did a poll about what calendar images you were thinking of, and a moon got quite a few mentions, and I love the moon. So I was going to paint a watercolor moon, which I've done before in the past in your collage sheets, but as a tip-in, and I was going to have the moon showing through all the leaves. But it ended up not being that, and I'm okay with that because I am deeply in love with how this calendar looks. I was printing test images of the calendar in large format. I did use a template to give me the squares because I didn't want to sit there and measure out squares. I knew it would just drive me insane. I found a basic word calendar with the squares so that I could just wonkily trace the squares, so I knew that all the squares were going to be the same size, and then that was it. And then I started working on the rest of it without the template. I just needed to get those squares without sitting there and trying to work out it all in Procreate. I'm not quite sure how to do that yet. Like I said, I'm super still very newbie when it comes to that sort of thing. So once I got the squares all done, the template went, and then I worked on the rest of it myself. I put it into Photoshop and added all the text in. And then because with the text there was white around them, I then imported it back into Procreate and then sat there and colored around all the days so that they were black, as well as this, because this is not black in the actual file, which you'll get a blank version of this with no numbers. And I consider giving you no days of the week, but I'm not sure if you want to add your own days of the week or if you want the days of the week like this. But this section will be clear, so you can write your own month, you can use stickers, whatever, and you can print that as many times as you want. So yeah, that was just a test to see how it looked, how clean it looked. I'm stupidly happy with how the calendar looks. I have obviously moved the tab. I wanted the tab up the top in the single calendar, but down below it just worked better by flipping it down here, which is what I did. I just took it from up here, moved it down here, and flipped it around. But in the actual file, you'll get it like a file tab, which is how I envisioned it and how I wanted it. So that's there for you guys in your collage sheets, but you can see that there's quite a bit of process. I literally worked on this for 2 days straight. I became obsessed with it, and it's one of my absolute favorites. And you'll get an A4 picture with this guy on it, so it'll spread this way and be that size. I'm hoping that the file will be nice and clean. I'll have to test print it that way because I actually want to put him on the cover of this journal when it's done. Whoops, my mini journal going flying, because there's nothing on the inside of here, and I'm so in love with this that I think he's going to become part of my journal cover, well, the journal cover. So yeah, from this to this, that is the process. And I've tried not to speed up the painting so you can see it in real life how slow and meticulous the painting is. And I obviously didn't record the entire process because it was repeating the process over and over and over and over again, and it was just, I thought people would be bored with it, so I showed you it in segments. And I've slowed down the line work so you can see me working on the line work, because Procreate's video import or export is really super quick, so it only spans like a minute and a half or 2 minutes, when it was hours and hours and hours of me sitting there doing line work continuously. So yeah, I am super happy and very proud, and I don't say that very often about what this calendar looks like and how it feels. And it just, I feel there was growth in this piece, and I haven't felt growth in my art in quite a while. So yeah, that is a big turning moment, like a big hurdle that I feel like I've jumped. So hopefully I can keep that momentum up. But yeah, that is the little chit chat on the calendar image, and obviously the paints and things that I used in the mini journal. Now, I'm not going to do line work in this today because I need to give my shoulders a break from doing line work, but your next video after collage sheets, so not Wednesday but the following Saturday, will be line work in working in this baby. I just needed to give my shoulders and my side a little break because I remember when I did the line work lesson for you guys on patterns and things, I got those major issues with stressing out my tendons. I can't even remember what it was, but I was in agony when I did too much line work, and all those leaves was slouched over my iPad for hours on end, from the bed to the couch to the desk. I had my iPad with me constantly, and I'd give my hand breaks and stuff like that because obviously you got to do that sort of stuff. But if I was to sit down and try and do line work in this for you this morning, it would just be not my best work, and you guys deserve way better than that. So there is a blog post going up probably tomorrow with you saw me setting up journal spreads for the blog post. Part of my job is to make my journal look beautiful in still shots for the lower levels. So you see that go up. I'll probably edit those photos tonight. It was meant to be edited last night, but once I got that calendar up, I needed like a mental break from anything digital. I was like sitting there with my laptop on my lap, and hubby's like, babe, you can't do it. You need to just step away, otherwise you'll do something that you hate, and then you'll be all emo about it. And he's right, he knows me way too well. But I am going to sit down and try. Can't guarantee it's going to be amaze balls because I am still a bit hungover from creating the calendar. I don't regret anything I did with the calendar. I love it. I haven't worked that hard on something in a really long time. Like, no, I shouldn't say it like that because it makes it sound like, oh, I'm super lazy. But there's a difference when you put, like, it's new and working in that, and that format is new, which means it takes more concentration and more, what's the word? Concentration is the big part of it, but like you do things slower and more meticulously, which really takes up a lot of your, not brain cells, but takes up a lot of space in your head. With the stuff that I do for you guys in collage sheets, I am it's more, what's the word I'm trying to think of? It's like, you won't get all of these this month, just know that. There's a few things here that aren't making it this month because I've got more than enough content. So don't get excited by everything you see here because you won't be getting it just yet. So I shouldn't be showing you these. But it's become second nature, and I can switch off and I can let my hands do the work, and I can happily go and really enjoy the whole process, and it's great. And it's enjoyable, and the calendar was enjoyable as well, but it's I'm using a different set of skills that aren't as honed and aren't as I can do it in my sleep kind of thing. So once I do a lot of it, it will become this sort of work, but before that takes a lot of practice and a lot of dedication. So that's kind of what I mean by by it taking a lot more work. It means it's taking a lot more for my brain to do, a lot more concentration. Whereas this, I can happily sit and watch The Bachelor, which if you've been watching my Instagram stories, you know I'm obsessed with the Aussie Bachelor, and I give a little like silly commentary as I do a few stories here and there. I can sit, zone out and color and not think. I could have this page done and not even blink an eyelid because it's something that is second nature. I've been doing it for 2 years now. I love it, and I just know sometimes if I'm unsure, I'll obviously sit there and do color swatches, but it doesn't happen very often. I am pretty much autopilot, but in a happy way. Whereas the calendar, it was not autopilot. It was constant thinking, constant lining, constant slow hand movements, especially with the leaves and things, and a lot of testing if I should put a block leaf or a non-block leaf, if it needed something else, yeah, that sort of thing. So that's just a little bit of insight into, yeah, things are still hard for me, especially when you learn a new skill. You've got to concentrate. It's like riding a bike. When you first start riding a bike, you've got to concentrate on staying upright, on pedaling, make sure you're going forwards, make sure you're steering properly. All those sorts of things have got to all be thought about. But once you're so used to it, you can get on a bike and ride and not even think about it. That's my analogy. That's the best way to explain it to you. That calendar process was a lot of thinking and a lot of meticulousness, and like I haven't sat down and watercolored something like this for a really, really long time. So the skill set I haven't called upon in a really long time. So I then had to think and make sure that I was doing what I wanted and mixing the right colors and all that sort of thing. So that is where we're at. So I can't guarantee that this will become a finished page, but I do wanted to give you a little bit more footage of me creating, because I didn't do heaps of creating. Obviously you saw the calendar and stuff like that, but it wasn't a massive chunk of creative footage, and you guys deserve the best. So I need to try and work out what I want to do. I'll probably use gesso again and maybe the paper artsy paints. I do have other shades that I might pull out because I do enjoy using these, and I've also got my Caran d'Ache crayons that haven't been used in a hot minute. So I'm gonna pull those out now, because if I'm gonna do a Nook, then I want to, nope, no Nooks in there. I mean, so I've got my coloured crayons which are in here, and I might work, if I'm going to do a Nook dweller in this fashion, then I'll probably see, even now I'm struggling to talk properly because my brain's so tired. I currently have an excruciating toothache as well, which has like aggravated one of my gums, so my partial part of my face is a little bit swollen and pounding. So I was like, am I going to do this bit or not? But I wouldn't be happy within myself. I can't guarantee this is going to be a masterpiece because I don't feel that crash hot, but I am dedicated to my work and to giving you guys wonderful content that helps you learn. I don't know if any of the process of showing you me painting it helped you in any way, shape or form. I used a mixture of Daniel Smith and Schmincke when it came to my glazing piece, and I will try and put down the main colors that I used. A lot of the colors came from the, no, it wasn't this palette. Oh my goodness. So the new palette that I showed you, I picked these three. Like there, you can see that there's like divots in them. Oh, I don't think the camera's going to pick up that, but there are like actual holes in the half pans, and that was purely because I used them quite a lot. And in my little palette, I used these three a lot and some indigo. I tried using a bit of Moon Glow, which you'll see. Does it show up much? Moon Glow got used around here, but I didn't like how it looked. There's also coloured pencil in here, which you didn't see me use because I covered up a lot of the bits that I just wasn't a fan of. So I had a whole heap of different coloured pencils. I think there's a little bit of coloured pencil work in the video. I can't quite remember. But yeah, so you can see that there's like a big puddle of the bluey green that I was working from. So I also use my Neptune brushes, which the two main brushes that I use for this piece, one of them's missing, but I use the 4, the 6 and the 8 in the Neptune, and I think they're actually still in the dining room. Are they? Or are they over there? No, they're in the dining room. Are they? Yeah, they are. So the 4, the 6 and the 8 of the Neptune Princeton brushes were the main brushes that I used. Yeah, because they were the ones that I had on hand, and some people always ask me what kind of brushes I use. Oh, I've actually got the 6 here. So the 4 and the 6 were probably the most used in the process. So yeah, those are the brushes and the paints. So I'll try and remember to pop the colors of the greens and blues that I used down below. If I can remember, I must put a note in my planner. But yeah, let's try and make something cute. Let's try, because we'll see. Let's maybe try. Maybe try. Okay, I've got my gesso in a palette. I use Dina Wakley brushes for my gesso. They're a little bit harder wearing. And the one thing I quickly jumped on here is the gold and the like the orangey color that I didn't happen to talk about, even though I said I would. This one here is the quinacridone nickel azo gold from Golden, and Sian bought me this tube for one of my first birthday presents when we first became really close friends. So it's the only tube of like golden paint. So I have a couple of little fluid acrylics, but this is just their normal one. So yeah, I don't use it very often because it's like the sacred one, like the my precious moment. So yeah, there's that. I have pulled out my Stabilo pencil as well, because I like to use that. got my normal pencil as well, and I've picked out, let me see if I can get them all in my hand without dropping them. I picked out these colors to have a play with, and obviously my little cheeky color there. So yeah, I'm not quite sure colors and stuff like that, so I can't help you all the time. Like the purple is periwinkle, and the pink, well, the pinky, like the purpley, the lighter, oh my goodness, my brain, stop, is mauve. And then these are like my favorite colors for faces and stuff like that. And I've pulled one of my eyes that I had sitting on my desk to sort of get me started as like a starting point, and then I'll go from there and then just add and stuff. So we'll see. I use matte medium to adhere the collage elements. That was another question I got with regards to what I used in my little sketchbook, in my little passport, was what I used to glue it down. I just used matte medium, and then occasionally if I needed something, so you can see there, I used a glue stick, but matte medium was for the larger stuff, and for most of the cover this was all matte mediumed as well. So I think that covers all the questions I got from this little passport. I can't wait to see this all filled up. It's such a cute little size. But yeah, definitely line work coming in the following video after collage sheets, and obviously more working in here. I can't see this taking too long because it's such a small petite size, but then again I do like to spend a lot of time. Other question, Kay asked me if I was going to write in this, and I don't think this will become any sort of written journal. This is more of a visual, sort of a combination between art and photographs from my life, so when art and life collide. So the only thing that I can think of writing is maybe a couple of words or something like that. Yeah, I don't want to make it a written journal. I've got a written journal for that, so this will be purely all visual, and if I write anything it'll be like a sentence or something like that, or like a little quote, or some of the Monday mantras that I might paste in here when they don't make it, or like the little Monday mantras would fit nicely in here, whereas the big ones would fit in my bigger journal. So yeah, that's enough information for you guys. I think I've covered everything that I can possibly think of, and now I'm going to start working on whatever this turns into. So hopefully it's not an absolute disaster. And I have my cup of tea next to me. My husband is cooking sausages and the smell is making me feel super nauseous. So I might go open the back door and let a bit of air into my studio. I'm getting that watery tongue feeling that I know is not a good sign. So I'm gonna go open up some air and see how I go. So I pop that eye down to give myself a little starting point. Sometimes if I'm looking at a collage, something will jump out at me and my eyes will see what I want to see instantly, but there was nothing sort of jumping out at me. I did stare at this piece for quite a while, couldn't make out any facial features, so I decided to force a start with putting in one of my eyes that is coming up in a Jane video, and so I stuck it down and then used that as my springboard almost to start creating the face. And I will normally just sort of go in and do really basic shapes and get the look that I want. I was having issues with my eyeball staying down, and I decided to make the face a lot less round, and then start working in and going in with my Caran d'Ache pencils. Not pencils, my watercolor crayons, and also using the blush paint and the gesso to help move them around. You can tell I was getting really annoyed with that damn eyeball. I start layering the blues and the purples and get down that double-sided tape. So So using those and then going in with some water to mix that around, and then adding the gesso to help sort of give it a bit more opaqueness, especially if I've got elements of collage that are really sort of in your face. I always will go in with the gesso to help give it a go from transparent to opaque, and that's generally how I like using them when it comes to creating Nook dwellers. I will use the gesso or white paint in conjunction with these things, just to sort of turn it into almost an acrylic paint. But I feel like they are so versatile, these crayons. You can like use them like scribbling on the page. I like to paint directly from the actual crayon. I'm also using my Stabilo pencil, which I also love using for my Nook dwellers, and that is a water soluble sort of graphite pencil, but it's like super black and it's fabulous. If you don't have one, I really highly recommend you getting one in your arsenal. It comes in super handy, especially for creating shadows, and it's one of my favorite things to use for making really black inky lines, and then you just add water and it's just beautiful. So Stabilo pencils, try and grab one. They're really hard to find in Australia. Sam actually tracks them down for me, and I've got 3 I think, but I always love them. And then I use the Blackwing pencil cap for my Stabilo so that I can have them in my pencil case, because they're a bit messy. That's the only thing, it's the only downside, but with the pencil cap, they're brilliant.
Riding on the open fields, we'll stay brave.
Full stop. Can't believe I live in your thoughts. I think about you all the time, morning, evening, and midnight. Such a wonderful delight. Forgo, give up everything that I own. Yeah, I'd give it all up now, just to be with you somehow. Unexpected love was found. You're the rose in a garden, and it shows if I'm honest. You're the leaves in mid-August, and I've come out here to say that I love you. Ooh, ooh, you, ooh, ooh. So slow, hold you in my arms, won't let go. The world around could pass us by, a thunderstorm, a lightning strike, as we hold each other tight. You're the rose in a garden, and it shows if I'm honest. You're the leaves in mid-August, and I've come out here to say that I love you. Ooh, ooh, you, ooh, ooh, you, ooh.
Alright, I think I am going to leave it there. I'm just altering this eye just a touch so it doesn't look as massive as opposed to the other one. But I kind of like that they're a little bit strange and a little bit odd. But I think if you can hear the wind, the door's open so I could air out my studio with the smell of the sausages. This took me approximately 30 minutes just to have a play with, so I give you a little bit of a time frame, and I know that because I was watching a studio vlog that hasn't finished yet, and so I'm on the 34-minute mark, and I started playing it when I started to sit down. So yeah, I'm using the products that I told you about. I did bring in some of the Ecoline inks as well for her hair and stuff, just to cover a larger piece with something that was more liquid and fluid. But yeah, I really, I think all of these types of things always looks different regardless of, even though I'm doing the same types of, what's the word, the same process. Basically they always come out with their own little look, and I love that about them. I'll probably extend her dress right to the bottom. I just didn't want to get the on my mind a bit messy, because I kind of like the colors, and that's kind of where I was taking her dress, was because I liked the colors of this little element, so I will bring that down. But that will be it. I need to help my hubby get all the stuff ready. We have our entire family coming for a barbecue tomorrow for Father's Day, and because we're celebrating Boo and John's birthday at the same time, so we're just rolling in all the family things tomorrow. So we have to go and get all the food for the barbecue, and sort of just give the back area a general sweep and tidy up, because we've had a lot of wind in the last few days. So we've got a stack of like random leaves that have just popped up. So this is the Paper Artsy paint again, and this is the blush color, but I think I might add a little bit of that pixie dust to my and I have another one called Cherry Blossom, I think, but I don't have that out at the moment. But it just is a really lovely color, and these were color recommendations from by Bun when I did one of her mixed media classes, but I actually picked up some of the pinks from my own want of pinks, but a lot of the like grays and the blues that I have are definitely her recommendations for the class. But the pinks, I think blush was one of her picks, and then you picked up the cherry blossom and the pixie dust because I'm a pink fanatic. But yeah, so that is that. My battery is now flashing, and as you can hear with the door being open, there's a helicopter. We actually live right near the army barracks, so we have a lot of air. A lot of helicopters and stuff pass over at random times, but I needed to have that door open. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this vlog and you've learnt something, or just enjoyed journaling along or creating along with me. But yeah, that is it for today, and I'm now going to go to the supermarket and do a whole lot of grocery shopping, which the kids are going to hate me for, but that's okay. Have a wonderful day, Inkies, and I'll see you on Wednesday for collage sheet day. Bye!